So why exactly do people in the richest country ever, around 85% of them, actually hate their job? And by the way, Tommy, are you one of those? The answer is I used to be. I used to dislike my job. And not just my first, my second, and even the job that I thought I wanted so much, which is basically when I started a business. I hated it too at a certain point. I even hated my dream job at a certain point, which is basically this one right here. And it's because, you'll know exactly why by the end of this video, but it's because of the concept that I actually had when it came to work that a lot of people actually share in America. So I'm hoping that by the end of this video, you actually understand why you hate your job and how you can actually stop hating it. And it does not involve starting a side hustle, getting into real estate, investing your money into stocks, or for example, you got to build your own business, then you'll have time and all this stuff and you'll be a lot more happier. Trust me, that's not it, because I also did that and that does not help whatsoever. Now do me a favor and smash the like button. And by the way, fun fact, in Japan, it's even higher than 85% of people hating the jobs and being disconnected like here in the US. No, in Japan, it's more like 94% of people that actually hate their jobs. That's even crazier. But I got to reading this book. It's called Your Life for Your Money by Vicki Rubin and also Joe Dominguez. And in this book, they get to talking about careers and jobs. And then I get to thinking, you know, what was my perspective when it came to work? And by the way, I used to think this. I thought that you had to get a job that you truly enjoyed. You had to get a job that fulfilled you and a job that got you excited every single morning to actually get up and go to work. Now, if you actually hear me saying this, you probably will not disagree. You'll probably say, yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for enjoyment. I'm looking for happiness. I'm looking for excitement. I'm looking for all of these three things from my work, so this way I can stop hating it. But in reality, what I'm really saying is this. I'm depositing my happiness, my expectations, my fulfillment, my energy into a source of employment. And is that the right place to actually say, here's where I'm gonna put all my energy? Into this job where at any moment I could lose it, at any moment I can stop liking it, at any moment maybe I could become disabled and now I can't do my job anymore. So then does that mean I lose my sense of being? I'm no longer useful in the world? The answer is no. So the main reason, in all honesty, why people actually hate their jobs is going to be because they're expecting their jobs to do something that jobs simply are not meant to do for a person. Jobs are not meant to satisfy your spiritual necessities, your human necessities. Usually, those things come by going to church, having friends and family, having meaningful relationships, being a part of a community, having values, and actually standing for something. And where did this actually go? It went down the drain because that's not really going on anymore. And we live in a world where everything now is about a career, getting really fulfilled. That's why whenever you talk to someone, what's the first thing you ask them? What do you do for a living, right? What's your job? What are you, you know? And their response is, I'm a doctor, I'm this, I'm that, you know, but that's not really who they are overall, although they say that's who they are, but that's not really what's actually going on, okay? So the minute you stop seeking fulfillment and happiness and dedicating all of your energy into a job, that's usually where you're going to take away all the stress and expectations from your job and just work a job because the true reason why you should be working. More on that later. And that's why these days, you know, you can have someone that wants to be, for example, a stay-at-home mom, and people look down on a woman like that. They say, you should be working, you should be doing that. And you have people that are teachers and they're like, you know, I'm a teacher, and they don't feel that great about it when it's a super important job. Things that are actually valuable are actually looked down upon because that's how the whole system is kind of stacked these days. Now, here are 5 common problems I see with people when it comes to having unfulfillment with their jobs. Number 1 is going to be people tend to identify themselves with a job. I've seen people that don't have to work and they keep insisting on working because they just don't know what they would do without their work. And they paint it in a very fancy way. They say, no, I like my job. I enjoy what I do. But the truth is, they don't know what else they could actually do instead of just basically depositing all of their life energy into just a job. Now, number 2 is stop wasting yourself to the bone in the name of success, So, you know how many bad marriages and broken families and just bad relationships overall there are in the name of I want to be successful, I want to work harder, I want to achieve this, and I want that. And everyone that says that, they seem to be very well motivated. They seem to be thinking that they're very smart. But in reality, everything in a sense is pretty much like marketing, in the sense that the reason you work so hard is to buy things that you basically don't need. And then you buy those things and you really can't enjoy them as much. And once you acquire those things, you want other things. And you just continue on this cycle of just getting more things and getting more things and getting more things. I really recommend you actually read that book, Your Money or Your Life, because it opens up your mind overall to what is actually going on. Now, number 3, guys, is what do you have to show for all your toil? Now, toil in the sense that, of course, job is not always going to be fun. You might have, for example, your dream job. I wished when I was 11 years old to actually be a YouTuber. It was like my dream job. But guess what? Not every single part of this job is going to be a dream, because to do this job, there's also like you're doing this, you're editing a video, you're planning a video, you're doing research, you're reading all this stuff, and you might not like every single aspect equally in a sense, okay? Or some aspects you just might hate overall in totality. So what tends to happen is basically people work this job and they go crazy working a job, and what do they have to show for it? A bunch of debts, a bunch of stupid toys, and they have to show for it maybe like 2 or 3 vacations that they went on that they won't shut up about. And in reality, what's the meaningfulness in that? I got a comment not too long ago where the guy was like, Tommy, I respect you, but I feel like your life could just be more. And I'm thinking like, what do you mean by more? And in his comment, he goes on detail like, you live this very simple life where you spend less than $1,000 a month. And, there's so much you could actually do. When you have kids, you can take them to Disney World. You can do this and you can do that. And everything he described was just in a sense like consumerism. And I'm not anti-consuming things. I'm not anti having fun and going on trips or whatever. But when the reason that you want someone to go to work for 40 hours a week and go crazy on a career and spend 30, 40 years giving it to the boss and doing all this great stuff is just because you want to go to Disney World, it's just stupid. It's just crazy. It's absolutely ignorant, okay? That's my point on that. And by the way, I do spend less than $1,000 per month on my living expenses, but it's because I positioned myself in a sense that I made this mistake, by the way, which was I worked very hard for the first part of my youth, and I was this person that I'm describing and telling you, don't do that. Don't deposit everything on a job and a career. I did that. And I'm telling you, don't do that. It does not make you happier. It does not make you more fulfilled at all. Trust me. So when I did that, I was able to save a lot of money, to invest a lot of money. And that basically means I don't have to worry, in a sense, about my biggest expense, which is basically shelter. Because I can buy a home in cash, and then what else do I have to spend money on for the most part? My core necessities are for the most part taken care of by my passive income. Now that's costly, but that's my lifestyle, and the trade-off is what I did back then. And do I regret it? The answer is absolutely I do. There was a lot more other things I could have focused my time on, and I could have been here later in time and just be just as happy or more fulfilled in a way. More on that in maybe a later video. Now, number 4, guys, is going to be stop building a cage. A job is a great resource. A job can be a form of feeling useful in a way, doing a task and so on. I'm not negating that. It can be a great thing. But when you use a job to acquire things and trappings, it's a bad idea. People have a job that they work for 30 years and they make it impossible for themselves to quit because they designed a life that basically there's no way to get out. They bought the fancy car, they bought the fancy house, they bought all the stuff on the credit card, they got all the personal loans, they got the student loans and all this stuff. And now if they quit, they're basically underwater. And even if they basically file for bankruptcy, they're still going to have some loans there because guess what? You can't get rid of student loans. So it's like this lifestyle you build that you put yourself in a cage, and you want to be very careful with that. Use your opportunities wisely to liberate yourself and to free yourself instead of actually building a cage where the cage looks fancy, but it's still a cage. Now, number 5, guys, is going to be stop lying to yourself saying that I work because I got to pay the bills. Most people aren't just working because they got to pay the bills. They're working because they got to pay the bills and they want to do other things. You know, they want to go on the vacations. They want to eat out every now and then. They want to go out and buy this and buy that. And you might not see it because sometimes it's not that obvious. But reading that book, I actually saw, you know, let's say you got home, you forgot your groceries, and you're like, hey, I gotta go buy something. I gotta get some milk. You come back from the grocery store with the milk and some other stuff. You gotta replace your toaster. You go on Amazon, you buy the toaster, and you buy some other stuff. You go somewhere to get a shirt for something, and now all of a sudden you're coming back with a whole wardrobe, okay? It's the consumerism thing that gets people, okay? So you might think that I spend all my money on bills, but actually take a look at your real bills, with your shelter, utilities, groceries, transportation. Where else is your money going? Where else is it going, okay? It's most likely not going into those 4 things in totality. And if it is, you should really refocus how much money you're actually spending on shelter and on debt and so on. Now, here's the last part to this video that I actually want to break down, which is super important before I get to the solution here. And it's going to be, your job is killing you slowly and you don't even know it, okay? And here's what I mean, okay? I remember a long time ago, I saw this study on YouTube because I was watching videos and I was curious about this, okay? And it was a study of a frog. If you boil some water and you throw a frog inside, the frog will try to hop out and basically escape because the water's hot, obviously. But if you put a frog in cold water, right, and you turn it on and you slowly start making it warmer and warmer until it reaches the boiling point, the frog will not jump out, because by the time it actually notices, it will be too late. And that's what happens with the majority of people when they put all their trust in a job, for example, and they actually start to hate it. So you get this fancy job. The job allows you to get the fancy house, which you might switch to get a bigger house when you get a promotion. The job allows you to get the fancy car, which you might trade in and switch every 3 years or 5 years. The job allows you to put your kids in the best schools out there, which you might put them even into better schools, you know, when it comes to college time and every now and then. The job allows you to go on fancy vacations every now and then, get things on your credit card because you know you're going to pay it off or whatever. And then before you know it, you actually sit down and you start to think, it's been 25 years or 20 years or 15 years and I have nothing to show for it. I have some equity on my home, but for the most part, when you actually deduct all my debts, my net worth is probably negative in a way. I've worked so much and I've made so much money, and all I have to show for everything I've done is a bunch of debts, and I don't even feel fulfilled with it whatsoever. So overall, Tommy, what's the point to this video? Why do people actually hate their jobs? Again, the basic idea and the basic rationale is people are putting unrealistic expectations when it comes to their jobs. They're trying to get meaning out of life by working a job. Things that you get from relationships, from family building, from values, from community, from church, they're depositing all this stuff and expecting it to come from a job. And a job is not supposed to do that. Now, are you saying that people should be idle, Tommy? The answer is no. Even the Bible says, for example, in Proverbs 12:24, it actually says, the hand of the diligent will rule, while the slothful will be put to forced labor. The idea is, in everything you do, as a Christian, you're supposed to glorify God. So your job does matter. My job does matter. I do my job because it's a great thing to actually do. You're not supposed to be idle. On top of that, you do get a level of fulfillment by actually being productive and being a part of the world. On top of that, you also get to provide for your family and, you know, some great stuff. But I wouldn't, for example, trade my family to get more dollars or get another comma in my bank account. I wouldn't, for example, trade my values to get, for example, a promotion at my job or anything like that. So my point is this, okay? When you see the meaning in work, which work is good, work is great, there is value in it, but when you see the true meaning of it, which is that to provide for your family, to represent God in everything you actually do, which is some great stuff. But for the most part, when you stop depositing everything else into a job and depositing all your life into a job, your expectations, your happiness, your fulfillment, your energy into a job, when you stop doing that, that's when you're going to appreciate a job for what it truly is, and you'll become a lot happier. But that also means that you should be looking for all those other things, having community, having church, having family, having everything else, that you actually choose, for the most part. But guys, that is it for this video. And that's my little theory on why people actually hate their job. So when I used to just focus on YouTube, and this was my sole thing, I was just focused on growing subscribers and money and ideas and every day, you reach a point where it almost becomes numbing, where it's not like you hate it, but it's like you're just doing it and you don't really know why you're doing it. It goes from I started to actually try to help to now I keep going because it's just what I do, to now I enjoy my work a lot more because I know what it's here for, but I'm also dedicating a lot more time to my church, to my family, to my friends, to building relationships, to potentially planning a family for the future and everything else, right? So these things bring me a lot more value, a lot more happiness, a lot more fulfillment, because that's what these things are designed for. Well, a job is great, but that's not what a job is designed for. So be very careful. Whoever made that, whoever made people think that you're supposed to work 40 hours and you're supposed to spend your whole life actually doing it, and then you're supposed to basically stop doing it when you can't do it anymore, they did a great job with the marketing. But that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Another one here. Peace.